The torch has become synonymous with the Olympic Games. It is carried all over the host country by people nominated because they have inspired others. It ends at the opening ceremony, where it stays lit throughout the entire duration of the Games. In a way, the torch acts as a countdown as it gets closer and closer to the place where it all will begin. In the same way, UW kicks off its summer ministry annually in Oklahoma City. It's the opening ceremonies for the next 9 weeks of camps that will take place all over the country and all over the world. This year, we have decided to take a look at 5 individuals who have inspired others through their time with UW. Each will encourage, each will challenge, each will represent a countdown to when the torch makes it to Oklahoma and another summer ministry begins. Beyond the Gold 2012.
My name is Lyndsey Benson. I first started at Uncharted Waters in the year 2000 as an intern. I was an intern for 3 years, and then I was a head coach for 2 summers. I currently coach at University of Northern Colorado. I'm the head volleyball coach. I've been here for 9 seasons, 7 years as head coach. I played volleyball at LSU, so when I was first an intern, it was the summers when I was training for volleyball at LSU, and then I also was an intern the summer after college when I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and so that was a great summer kind of bridge into the real world where I then eventually went into coaching. My first taste of UW was when Tim and Al, and really it was just a Tim and Al show. It really wasn't even Uncharted Waters back then, or they weren't named that. That was not what they were referred to. So they came to our church, Christ Community Church here in Greeley, and put on a camp. And it was mostly just soccer, which wasn't really my forte. Volleyball, tennis, basketball was kind of my thing. So I thought, man, that would be a great job someday. I'm thinking full-time ministry, long-term. So when I got the opportunity to just do summers, I thought that fit in perfectly. So 2 summers later, as I was in college, was the first time I heard about the internship, and it was really the first time they were doing an internship program. And so my brother and I both jumped on board and were excited to be part of that first group of 8 interns.
Yeah, Lyndsey represented actually in the Fab 8. She represented the whole formula. Could we get athletes that did not have the background that Kristen Kennard had with their father being a children's pastor? Could we get the athlete and train them well enough that they could do this on their own? And Lyndsey just blew everybody away and did exactly what we hoped she could do.
The camp part was brand new for interns and how that was going to work, and if they trusted us really to go put on these camps all over the country, they would send 4 of us, and you were the expert in your field as you stepped in and led that church through a sports camp because you understood the vision. You understood how it could be effective to reach kids for Christ.
Well, I remember Lyndsey quite well from that original Fab 8 team, and several things stand out, like her athletic ability and her stature. But things like her heart for ministry were so impressive. To give up her training time at LSU to join that Fab 8 team spoke wonders to her character and the priorities that she had set for herself in life.
In college, especially at Division I level, all my teammates stayed and trained together in Baton Rouge. So I was the only one that was doing something different. Those first 2 summers, it was nice because there was a volleyball touch to it, where it was my sport and I was getting to play a little bit. But really that was 2 weeks out of the summer. And the rest of the summer I was doing soccer or basketball, a different sport that didn't even pertain to what I was doing. So, you know, in one sense it was a sacrifice to not be with my team and training and knowing that my starting spot was at risk and how my coaches and teammates would perceive that. You know, it's not a Christian school. LSU is far from it. So they're perceiving that Lyndsey's going to do ministry for a summer instead of a commitment here to her team.
I mean, most of us were not Division I athletes. We just loved sports and played at some level. And I thought it was cool even at the time, knowing athletics, knowing sports, kind of the way it works, that somebody who was playing at that level and moving into coaching at that level was still taking the time to do sports camps with kids in a system that honestly at the time wasn't really well developed and wasn't big time like some of the big name sports ministry navies that are out there. But you never would have known that from Lyndsey's attitude. She was about as genuine and nice as a person could be, and you just felt like every time she spoke at camp, every time she shared anything, or every time she coached, that she didn't think of the context it was in or who was watching. It was just straight from her heart, and because she enjoyed doing it.
In the one aspect that it was a sacrifice, and there was certainly that kind of burden and pull to stay there and train with my team and know that we wanted to win conference championships and I wanted to be a starter again and do those things. You know, it was the balance of what my coaches and teammates want me to do and what I should do from that worldview and what I should do based on what God is calling on my heart. That has to be a no-brainer when you're really praying about it and your heart's pure before God. That was a no-brainer for me, that I need to go and do ministry. And the rewards far exceeded the sacrifices when I look back. Even each year, immediately following the summer, as I would return to my team and feel slightly disconnected because they had been together for 3 months, I still would not have changed my decision ever. It was the right decision to make.
I'm still amazed, I think a lot of times, especially being in the role that I'm in now, when I meet with students, again, most of the people that are athletically at the Division I level or playing that just think that doing something like UW isn't a good choice of their time. And I definitely think it was a sacrifice for Lyndsey. I'm sure she could have been doing other things. And I think the sacrifices that she might have made from a professional standpoint every once in a while, but for the sake of ministry and for the sake of sharing the gospel with as many kids as she could.
As soon as I finished my internship years, college years, that summer after I graduated, wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I thought about sports broadcasting, I thought about full-time sports ministry, or I thought about college coaching. Those were kind of my 3 avenues that I was going to take. And so not having heard back from much sports broadcasting, as you can probably tell why that didn't pan out, it kind of came down to ministry or coaching. So for that summer, I was going to do one more summer as an intern.
Lyndsey was one of our coaches, and Thursday night, our salvation message, Lyndsey actually was a part of a trio. I believe Sam was teaching and Lyndsey was teaching and Amy Furhaken was teaching. It's always my favorite night of camp because you could just totally feel God's presence working through the kids as they teach and present the gospel message. And
I remember that week specifically because we'd teach the Bible lessons like on this one big field, and we'd split into groups. And so we could always kind of see each other. You couldn't necessarily hear what each other was saying, but I still remember that image because it was one of the few times in all the years doing it that all the Bible groups were so close together but weren't distracting in a way. And so every time I was speaking or I was sharing a Bible lesson, I could look up and see the rest of the team, including Lyndsey.
And it was like, I don't know, synchronized preaching to listen to all 3 of them just come together and be at the same parts of the story at the same time. And I could just feel the Holy Spirit's presence as they were teaching and delivering such a powerful message together. And even when it came down to actually giving the invitation and allowing the kids to pray to accept Christ, they were almost hitting it at the same time. Even though they had their own different teaching styles, they were still right in sequence. And it was just a really fond memory of mine from sports camp. One of the greatest memories that I have at sports camp is sitting out in the middle and just listening to God work through these 3 young people and how powerful their message was to our kids at camp.
And I went straight from camp in California to my first job in Alabama at Samford. But I love college coaching, and it probably works with teaching as well, to have your summers a little different schedule where you can go back and do things like this. So for 2 more summers, I chose to spend weeks where I could have been probably making more money doing other volleyball camps or enjoying that time off or family vacations. That's where I wanted to spend my time, was doing more camps. I mean, I was hooked at that point to see the effectiveness of this ministry and that was a vacation for me. I mean, that was just an energizer to come back, especially in a public school setting where I am now, because it's different ministry that I have here.
I remember back in December, just this last year, where I was actually in Hawaii visiting my son and watching his football games. And we had an opportunity to go see University of Hawaii women's volleyball playing in the NCAA tournament. They were playing a school from Colorado, but not even thinking about it. Lyndsey Benson was the coach, and it was just really a small world connection, because I immediately brought back so many memories of her smile and her joy that she brought, her talent for the game, and to see her coaching collegiate ball was just really exciting. It made me feel a little old, but it was fun to see her in her element now as a grown woman, and continuing to use her talents. And I'm sure she's making an impact on the women's lives that she's touching through coaching at the school.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of sacrifices this summer. As you prepare for the summer, prepare your mind for that. I love to tell my team here that you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if I could look back on my Uncharted Waters time, that's a perfect theme for it. There's going to be a lot of things that come up between now and the time that you're full-fledged into camp, where you're in it and you would never look back. But between now and then is the hard time, where Satan's going to attack, and there's going to be things that go on that are going to be distractions and want to pull you away from doing this internship. And I can tell you from the opposite side, stick to your commitment, get in there and do it. You're going to make sacrifices. You're going to miss big events. You're going to miss maybe making more money. You're going to miss some training with your team. You're going to miss those things. And what you're going to get in exchange for that will be better. You're going to grow spiritually. You're going to grow physically. You're going to grow relationally. You're going to get outside your box in a way that you've maybe never done before. And so when those things come up and those obstacles come up and you think, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe next summer, let me put it off another year, and don't put it off. You're called to be here right now for a special purpose. And as you've prayed about it, one of my favorite quotes is, never doubt in the dark what God showed you in the light. So as you've prayed about it and God has shown you that this is where you're supposed to be for the summer, then don't doubt that when Satan is bringing obstacles. And he is bringing his darkness on there. God showed you in the light what you're supposed to do this summer, and now he's leaving it up to you to act on it.